Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Talk to Rami. I'm so excited today because I'm sitting here with my dear friend, Steve Harper. Steve, he's an entrepreneur, technologist, coach, mentor to me and many other people. And the most important thing about Steve is this. He gives to others with no expectation, nothing in return. Big heart to give. Steve, welcome, man.
Thank you for having me. I'm honored to be back. This is awesome.
This is the second time we're sitting and we're talking, and I'm so excited because, first of all, your third edition of the new book, The Ripple, is out, guys, folks. I highly, highly recommend it. You should go and read it because if you read this book, you know how to connect with people and how you create ripples in your life and business. But amazing book, guys, and you can go to ripplecentral.com. Am I right?
Yep, absolutely.
And get the book. But welcome back, and how's everything?
Everything is great. It's been very busy, as you know. I mean, you understand because you are a busy entrepreneur as well. But I am always happiest when I've got 1,000 things to get done, and I'm just blazing. And so life's good.
I follow you on LinkedIn and other platforms, and the stuff that you post sometimes, and most of the time, it really touches my heart because you are really a true person. Like, you say it like what it is, and you say how you feel, especially about your last post that you went to UT, you went to the elevator, and you went to the graduate school, and for some reason, the regrets of the past hit you. What happened?
Well,
it was kind of happened. That was amazing.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it. It was kind of an interesting story. I had an opportunity. My son just graduated with his master's degree from the University of Texas, and he had been encouraging me to meet the professor that's really been under, basically he's been in her cohort and sort of under her supervision for the past 2 years. And so we finally connected. She's over a very unique application of immersion technology. Think about the Oculus and all of the capabilities that are out there, but they're doing more than that. It's about experience. And I had really been enamored with their final project where they did an immersive experience. If you're familiar with, some of these programs like, the Wonder Labs and different organizations, Meow Wolf in Santa Fe, these are experiences where you go in and it's almost transformative, right? And I was really curious to learn from her how she sees it being applied in technology and ultimately for, the service of others. And so we had a great conversation, really, really enjoyed seeing the lab that they have there at UT. Professor Erin Riley is just a phenomenal lady. I really had a great conversation with her. But as I was leaving, I was just like, how awesome this was, the environment, the experience. I'm like, this would have been the thing that I wish I had done, I had been involved in. And, obviously my career path took me a different direction, but I think as I was riding down the elevator, I started having this, if only I had moment. And that's the post that you saw on LinkedIn, which was, if only I had, finished that degree, stuck it out. I went to school on a full scholarship. I had multiple opportunities, but the call to be an entrepreneur was too strong. And so I left early. But you have those moments, right, where you start to think, hey, what if I had gone the other direction? What if I was in a position like Professor Riley to be doing something to impact, this next generation that's coming up? And I love technology. I love the experience design that they're focused on. But it really just kind of hit me. It was kind of overwhelming. And so as I'm driving back to my office that day, I'm thinking about like all of these different pangs of regret, right? If only I had done this, if only I had done that. And so the post that you saw was basically, I just got back and I made a list of all the different things that really at the end of the day, I thought were regrets. But as I got to the end of the list, I realized if only I had done all these other things, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now, right? And that gave me a sense of purpose and encouragement. Rather than being depressed, it gave me an opportunity to be a little more upbeat and positive. That sometimes things work out for a very specific reason, right? So it was telling. But it's been amazing how many people have responded to that post and called me directly and said, "Oh my gosh, I didn't really actually think about these things until you put it out there, and you were so honest." And my list was rather long, and I was kind of surprised at how long it was. But then I realized if those things had come to fruition, I wouldn't be sitting here today probably.
Yeah. Why did you decide to be vulnerable? Why did you decide to just tell people how you felt? Because most of us, we kind of hide things. And that I'm serious. Most of us, we hide things and we think that I'm going to keep it to myself. That's maybe embarrassing. Maybe shows the sign of the weakness or something else. But you came out and you talk about it and you touched so many people, including myself.
Well, I appreciate that. I kind of realized a long time ago that, there is people put on these airs, right? These, sort of acts about, oh, I've got it figured out, especially now with social media, right? Everybody, wants you to feel like they've got it going on. They've got it figured out. And I don't, every day is a struggle for me. As I've told you before, I'm introverted and shy. And so for me to be an entrepreneur and to do the kind of work that I do, it takes me kicking myself in the hindquarters every single day. And rather than run from that and be embarrassed by it, which I spent a great deal of time being embarrassed by it, I decided to lean into it, right? And really be honest with myself, but at the same vein, be honest with other people about, I struggle with these things. I struggle with confidence. I struggle, with a ton of self-doubt. I worry, way too often about what other people think about me, which has made me, in certain aspects of my career, be really cautious. And when I was too cautious, things didn't work out. Things weren't great. And when I realized that I started to be honest and really upfront with people and just be vulnerable, right? I think at the end of the day, that speaks to people that are maybe putting out there that they've got it figured out, but they don't, and they find some solace in some of what I put out there.
This is very interesting because I have faced that. And one point in my life, I was really thinking about what other people thinking about me, and I stopped it. And as you said, because what is the point? They're going to judge you no matter what.
Exactly.
Good or bad, they're going to judge you. But the question is that how far can we go with that kind of mentality, and how we're going to live like that is very tough to be somebody that you are not there. Therefore,
it's exhausting, right?
It's very exhausting to pretend to be somebody else, and you reflect that, which is not you. But these days, people do that all day long.
They do, and I remember when you and I first got together, I think that you had those that sense of insecurity and lacked a little bit of confidence. For me, it was
very hard for me to meet with you.
Yeah,
I'm serious. The first time I met with you, like 17 years ago, I said, "Oh my God, this is the published author," and I'm grabbing his book. My English is not very good. What he's gonna think about me and all that stuff. But the way you accept me as who I am, that changed my life, my friend.
Well, I appreciate that.
I am serious.
You've changed my life in a lot of ways as well. What I actually found is that I'm really good at helping pull that out of other people, but I wasn't being honest with myself or the public about who I was really as an individual. I was not necessarily masking it, not necessarily putting on an act, but I wasn't quite as vulnerable. And what I have really found, especially in today's world, people are looking for authenticity, right? They're looking for people that are willing to come to the table and share the good. Obviously, the good is great and it's motivational, but also the bad, the things that don't often, get a lot of attention and there's not a lot of focus. And so for me, it's been a struggle for a long time. I'm really, really fantastic at finding the little thread within someone that they really haven't recognized as solid gold, and pulling that out and helping them build that story, build that, that character and sort of that brand, that personal or professional brand. But I wasn't doing it for myself. And so some of what you've seen over the last probably 6 months to a year is me just being very, very honest and very vulnerable about, some of the challenges that I have. And it's often true. I mean, you hear that adage, right? You could be the cardiologist who is telling his patients, hey, don't smoke. Yeah. You need to exercise, stop drinking. Then you're going home and you're pounding a bunch of whiskeys and you're smoking a pack of cigarettes and you're never exercising, right? And there's that that incongruency a lot of times. And I just felt like at some juncture, I just needed to stop that. I needed to start putting the real version of me out there, good, bad, and ugly, and, see how people respond to it.
You deal with a lot of people and you coach a lot of people, and your coaching is amazing because you, as you said, you extract all that about them from them and give it back to them. Say, hey, I see you can do this. I see this is your capabilities. And you move them toward not only personal success, business success too, like you did it with me. But what is the biggest challenge as you coach people right now? What is the biggest challenge that they have and you see it? Do you see any patterns between people right now? Is it like...
Yeah, I would say the pattern is everybody wants to be something that they're not, right? You know, that there's some desire for them to, they're living, you know, as I tell a lot of people, you know, we're in a scroll society where we're living vivaciously through other people's exploits, whether it be on Instagram or TikTok or, you know, LinkedIn. We think everybody else is ahead of us. Everybody else is figuring it out. And all that does is put you in a position of sort of being stuck in neutral. You're afraid to move forward and do things on your own because you don't think you can catch up or you don't think that you're going to be as successful. And the people that actually end up seeking me out are kind of tired of that, right? They're tired of not having people in their corner. They're tired of not having the right, you know, established network that's going to be there to support them. But most importantly, I think a lot of the people that I engage with are really looking for somebody to believe in them, right? Somebody that will be in their corner, that will be there to say, look, hey, I'm going to pick you up, dust you off when you fall down. Those things are going to happen. Don't let them stop you. Continue to move forward. Continue to work on you. And then bring the true, authentic version of yourself to the surface, because that is what the world needs. I always tell people, you know, the world will rise up to ripple with you if you are showing up as the authentic version of yourself. Don't put on airs. Don't, you know, try and sell people on a different version of what you think they want. Put yourself out there, and the right people will show up. Maybe not all the people that you think are going to be there and be the most accommodating. I've had to end relationships. I've ended friendships. I've ended some business partnerships because it took a realization that I needed to do things different, and I didn't want to change or alter just because it was the popular way to go. And I think having someone in your corner, which we've done for one another for a long, very long time, having someone in your corner that's willing to do that for you is really critical. And what I'd say about you, when I first met you, the one thing that the word that I would use when I first met you, and really still to this day is true, is drive, right? You came here, you made something out of nothing. You were willing to take a chance. You were willing to, you know, swing for the fences. And you were going to do whatever it took to get to where you knew you wanted to be. And at the time when we first met, you didn't know exactly what that was, but you knew it was different than where you were. Yep. And that's what I loved about you, your enthusiasm and your motivation, and you were a sponge. The big thing I see with a lot of people that, you know, ask for help, they want the answers to the test. They want the quick solutions. You're willing to put in the work. And the clients that I work with that are really committed, those are the only ones I want to work with, because they're the ones that are going to have to do all the heavy lifting. They're going to have to go and make the life that they want. Because I say often, you know, nothing happens until you make it happen. And with you, I just think you needed somebody in your corner at that time. And I think I was blessed you called me. I was blessed that we had the opportunity to have that first coffee meeting at the Daily Grind way back when, and to get to know one another. And yes, if you look at us, we come from completely different worlds. We come from completely different backgrounds and experience. And that's what makes life so great, is that by not prejudging one another, by not sort of just taking the little bits that you can from one another and then moving on, which a lot of people tend to do. But we actually invested in that relationship. We invested in being there for each other on a professional level as well as a personal level. And that's where the friendship came from. So I like to do that with all my clients. I like to do that with people that I believe in. And I especially like, and it's been my way for as long as I can remember, I love the underdog. I love the person who does not necessarily see that they can get somewhere, but I can see it. You know, I can see it in my mind's eye, and almost everybody that I meet, I can tell you where you can go.
That's the true coaching.
Yeah. Well, you know,
it's like athletic people. You know, the coaches, they see
potential.
You can be a great basketball player. Nobody sees it, but one person, that coach sees it.
Absolutely. Well, and this has pervaded every aspect of my life. You know, I've been a soccer coach for a long time. I finally retired about 2 years ago. But last night I played indoor soccer with one of my former players who's now in his 20s. And he was telling another one of the adult players that's on our team, they're like, how'd you know Steve? And he goes, he plucked me out of a team that didn't really help me, guide me, and he taught me the game. He taught me how to love the game, and he really committed to getting the best out of me. And he said, I'll play with him as long as he'll have me, because I enjoy that process so much, because he's always teaching. That was like, it just completely blew me away, because I was just so honored to hear him say that. And it was within earshot, but he wasn't saying it to impress me. He was legitimately there because he was telling this guy, this is how this guy came into my life and why he's still a presence in my life. And to me, that's the best. That's the ultimate payoff. When you talk about return on investments, doesn't matter if anybody paid you, doesn't matter if you made all this money. It's if you made a difference in somebody's life. And to me, that's the biggest reward.
And this is what you're speaking in your book, and you're talking about it, because believe it or not, I didn't know what is ripple effect. I didn't know what is that until we had that talk in the Daily Grind, and I picked up your first edition of the book, and I read it, and that built my foundation to success. And I tell you why. Because any people that I connected it for any reason, for somehow they showed up in my life, sometime, in some parts, and something happened. And I want the people to understand that the concept behind the ripple effect is what you put out there and who you connect and how you're going to nurture that relationship. As you always teach people and taught me as well, that every connection that you make is important. It can be in a Starbucks, as most of the people you met around met, or in the conference or in the restaurant, but you really don't know. And the people are the most important assets in our life, business or professional. 17 years, go back, you and I were sitting here, we create so many ripples. Like you did so many ripples for me. I help you, you help me. We help so many people.
Well, we don't keep score. That's the thing, right? At the end of the day, that's you asked, what the biggest challenge is. Everybody's looking for the quick, the quick answer, the quick solution, or the quick payoff. And the reality is, in today's world, we live and work in a relationship-driven society. And that means that in order to build, say, a connection into a trusted connection, you got to have that first, from a trusted connection into a relationship. But the real value becomes when you've got that trust built within
how
that
you can build that.
It takes time, takes energy, it takes focus. It requires that you do the bulk of the heavy lifting, right? So at the end of the day, somebody that you've met that you know that there's some potential there, if left to your own devices, you guys might see each other once a year, maybe twice if you're lucky. Or at the next networking event. That's not where the relationship is built. The relationship is by having good, authentic questions, understanding who that person is at their core, what their challenges are, what their goals and aspirations are. And you can't just hit that up like on one meeting, right? It takes time to build that rapport so that you can ask those questions, develop the understanding of where they're going and where they want to be. But I think one of the things that I always tell people is that, you have to be brutally honest with people about what you want out of this. Is I met you, I liked you, I thought you had a lot to deliver in this world. I wanted to play some small part in creating some aspect of success for you if I could. And by doing so, and I think you heard these words from me originally, it's like, I'll keep showing up and continuing to contribute to this relationship, but you have to as well. And I don't think there's enough of that actually takes place in today's world. We're not honest and authentic with each other. We are at best surface connections. We know a little bit about what somebody's about, what their profession is, what their job title is, but we don't know who they are as authentic people. And that takes some work, and it takes a lot of heavy lifting. But the reality is, when you can reach that level of engagement, the relationship can go so many different places. I mean, your show is an example. You've had a number of people that I've built relationships with on your show and vice versa. And that only happens because people trust and respect and admire you. So when you make that introduction and say, hey, you need to check this guy out and what he's doing, they will, without question, do it. And because they know that you would not lead them down the wrong path, you would always be focused on their success and you're not wasting their time. And so I think for a lot of us, it's a matter of who do we want to build those relationships with? And what amount of effort are we willing to put towards it? Because it will take you doing, again, the bulk of the heavy lifting, at least initially. When people kind of get through, like, wow, Steve shows up all the time. Steve always is looking to help me. The best question I always ask people is, how can I help you? Most people never answer that question because they don't really know how. It's so odd that they get it asked. So a lot of people aren't prepared. But when you keep showing up and you keep asking that question and you're willing to contribute in any possible way that you can to them, now all of a sudden people rise up to meet you. And that is where you really, really excel. That's where relationships truly grow and become some of the most powerful relationships you can ever have in your life.
What is everything has got a foundation, to create a true friendship and the connection, you got to build that foundation. And as you saying, the first thing is to create that trust. It's the old days, you remember, and I remember that people, they will exchange business cards. Mm-hmm. I think that's a horrible thing to do.
I do too.
And that's,
please don't send them a LinkedIn request as soon as you meet them. That's just horrible.
Yeah, this is the basic stuff, Steve. This is the basic stuff people don't know because nobody told them. Like, one thing I learned from you was, if somebody asked, I remember I talked to you about that. Somebody asked me the LinkedIn request, and I really liked the guy. The first thing I said, "It's a pleasure to meet you. How can I help?"
Yep.
And 9 out of 10, it works.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And this is the simple thing. What people should do, like, there's any recipe. I don't know if it's a recipe or not. Based on your book, based on your experiences, what is then the first point of the contact? How people should react, should say, and what they have to do. They go to networking, they go to gatherings, seminars, and what they should do, because time changed.
Sure. Well, I think what most people need to do is they need to have a better question. So whether you're in a networking environment or you're actually connecting with a coworker that you just haven't taken the time to get to know all that well, have some better questions to get to know who that person is, right? And, we call them ripple connection questions, but questions that really give you some sense of who that person is. Again, it's not their job title or their responsibility or anything that denotes status. It's about who they are at their core. That is the baseline, right? So you start there, and then hopefully through good questions and good follow-up questions, you're hearing some stories, right? You're getting to know who that person is. And out of that story, if you're paying attention, you're looking for what I call connection points. Connection points, in my opinion, are these little bite-sized morsels of information that you learn about people that that make them unique to you. And you file those away, but then you pull them out as a follow-up, right? This is a reason for us to get back together. This is a reason for me to share an article or a podcast or something that I thought might be of interest to you. Or it could be our common interest in, the same football team or the same, soccer, team or whatever, that you do something on the weekends or you're passionate about your, nonprofit work. It's that little thing that allows you to say, I was thinking about our conversation and I wanted to share this, or I wanted to ask you that. And this gives you such an opportunity to start that dialogue again, but on a completely different platitude, right? And from there, you continue to build. It's a foundation. What I have found, and I heard this, I can't honestly take credit for it, but I love the foundation of it, is you can't show up to connecting with a cathedral. You got to show up with a brick.
Wow.
You build the foundation one brick at a time. And I love that because at the end of the day, if you do it and you do it well, you're going to end up with the cathedral. But here's the thing. Most people are looking for, well, I need to hurry up and get through my agenda. I need this relationship with Rami to pay off. I need to have some justification for taking the time. And that's why most of those people struggle, right? When you have to have a justification in your own mind or you have to tick a box, you're already going to lose at the relationship game because it is not a zero-sum game. It is a committed, continual effort that you've got to be focused on. And when I think about the brick concept is every time we get together, we're adding a brick to the foundation of our relationship.
Absolutely.
And the interesting thing about that is, you and I could get together once a week, have coffee, and we could say, well, what's going on? What happened this week? And those are surface level questions. We show up and say, hey, I read this article. I thought this might apply to something you're working on at work.
You send me many times.
Yes. You find something there. When you can do that, now our conversations go a completely different way, right? There's more meat to the bone, meat on the bone and more substance. And what I find is that you and I could do that once a week for the rest of our lives, and we still wouldn't know everything there is to know about each other. You never run out of things to learn if you show up and are prepared to learn more.
Because a lot of people, they have that problem that how am I gonna nurture this connection?
Yeah.
Or how I'm gonna add value to this connection? Because I had connections that, they connect with me and then they are gone for months.
Sure.
And, what you expect if you do that, you're basically not nurturing that connection or that friendship or whatever it is. But as you saying, or I'm listening, you have to constantly add value to other side.
Yeah. Well, I look at it from two baselines, right? What can I learn? What can I share in each interaction? And if you can figure out what to do in that regard, you've got a plethora of ways that you can take that ongoing dialogue, conversation, that text string. I mean, a lot of us default to that, right? You and I sometimes are guilty because we're busy and you're in a meeting or I'm in a meeting and that's the only way we communicate. But almost every time that we do it, we're like, hey, let's follow this up with a call, or let's get together for lunch, or let's, have a sit down. That's where I think that a lot of people, they get overwhelmed by thinking that there's so much activity that they have to do in order to get any kind of substance out of the relationship. And it's just not true. I met a guy at a conference. I was speaking at the Boys and Girls Club National Conference just recently. And I met a guy, and this guy and I just hit it off like that. And we went deep quick because he was committed to the concept of what the Ripple was about. He was really engaged at a level that he was curious about how they could apply this to their local club. And we just all of a sudden, we bypassed all the superfluous stuff and went deep really quick to get to know each other. Those things can happen. It's not always lightning in a bottle. Some people take time. Some people, it's going to take a little bit more heavy lifting to get to know that person. But this person showed up. I'm like, I'm here. I'm prepared to learn. I want to know what I can know about rippling and how to apply this to my executive team and to my board. And I really want to do it. But the thing I loved about it is he actually listened to the talk I gave, and he said, but I want to know about you. I want to know about what motivated you to write the book, what motivated you to start this podcast and do all the things that you're doing in addition to all the other things that you do as an entrepreneur. And that was the baseline. That was the invitation. And for him, when I learned that he had left the corporate world to focus on, let's say, honestly, it's a nonprofit space, right? There's a ceiling and a cap for what you can do financially. And this guy was making great money, but he just wasn't fulfilled. And when he and I gelled on that piece, right? It's like, when was it that, when did you know that you weren't being fulfilled by the career path that you were on? When did you know that you wanted something more out of your life? When did you know that you wanted to create a positive difference out there in the world? That gave me the baseline of understanding who he was. But then we came all the way around. Then how did you select to get involved with the Boys and Girls Club? And then to learn that it had an adverse effect on him when he was young, and it had made a huge impact. And it was we really both had some very strong influences in our youth that actually helped keep us off really bad paths. I was headed down a path that wasn't good. He was in a similar path, and ultimately we both found somebody who saw something in us, right? And said, hey, look, we're not going to let you do that. We're going to guide and direct you back on to where you need to go. We're going to be the one that believes in you. If everybody else doubts you, we're going to believe in you. That was our common, right? That was our connection point right then and there. It's like, okay, this guy's going to be in my life for a long time. Because at the end of the day, it really became obvious to me that this is the kind of relationship that can go 0 to 60 today, right? Not, I've got to meet this guy 6 times. I'm going to have a bunch of calls and conversations. We didn't need that. So I tell people, you just don't know. There are certain people that just show up and they're there. They show up in your life at exactly the time that they're supposed to. And if you're both prepared and willing, you can accelerate that into a true trusted relationship super quick. If not, and you still see people that there's potential and you just don't know what it's going to take in order to grow it, and figure out how to build that from a trusted connection into a relationship, and from a relationship into a trusted relationship, well, you just got to put in a little extra time and work, but it's worth it.
You know, the biggest advice that you gave me, I remember you said, put yourself in the environment that nurture your true meaning in life.
Yes.
And hang around with the people that believe what you believe. You connect with them, but sometimes people, they put themselves in the situation that it doesn't serve them. And you call it as a toxic environment. And sometimes it's very hard for people to understand or cut themselves off of that environment. As you've seen it, I've seen it. People do that all day long. They're in an environment, work, or friendship. How hard is that to cut somebody off? I went through that like last week, but you got to do what you got to do. Why we have to do that?
Well, I'm a big believer, especially for my Ripplers. I mean, I think they all have big hearts. They want to see people be successful, but there is only so much you can do for certain people. At the end of the day, and you know in your heart of hearts when it's time to move on.
You've done that too.
I have done it. It's hard. It is difficult, but it's necessary, because at the end of the day, to carry your own burdens is heavy enough. To carry somebody else's burdens is almost debilitating. And you're going to have people out there that unfortunately just won't get out of their own way to solve their own problems, or they'll always constantly come to you because, I got laid off again, I need another job, or there's the same story on repeat, right? It's like I always talk about it like on the TV show reruns, it's the same episode, it's just being replayed just in a different time period, in different environment. And those people, unfortunately, you send them off into the world and say, look, I respect you, I admire you. If you really get into a significant pinch, I'm going to be here to help you, but I can't continue to have you in my space because I need to distance this, because you need to go out and figure some of this stuff out on your own, because I've given you everything I can possibly give you. And yes, that can be a separation on a professional relationship. It might be someone from your network. It could be a personal friendship. It could be your significant other in some capacities.
Yep.
And oftentimes it's the employees that, are just going to continue to drag you and everybody else down, and you have to do something, because the reality is the inability to do it and the inability to take action on it is only serving to bring you further down, and that's a challenge. And I think a lot of people, that's why people stay in these really abusive, verbally and mentally abusive relationships way too long, because they don't feel like they're entitled to anything better. And I'm here to say you are, without question. You're entitled to have a better employee that's going to show up and not, constantly complain or have an issue or a problem, and, it's going to be a reliability problem or cause you conflict with your clients. You don't have time for that as a business owner or entrepreneur. You're gonna need to remove yourself from that romantic relationship that's not going to serve you. If you think forward even a year or maybe 5 years, is anything going to change with that person? And the answer is no, and you'll know it in your heart of hearts.
Yep.
Then that's the answer. The answer right there is I've got to separate. It's not that you're wishing them, ill will, and you're not trying to, cast them off without any support line, because you want to be there for people if you can. But at the end of the day, there's just some people, I call them, the energy sucking vampires, right?
Yep.
They will zap you, your motivation, your inspiration, and they'll take your customers from you just by being, the dark cloud that enters the door. So you have to at times just, I hate to say it this way, but you got to pull up your big boy pants and you got to make the hard decisions sometimes.
I always want to ask you this. Actually, yesterday I was thinking about it, that the ripple effect, you talk about that, is not only positive, but can ripple effect be negative?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean,
really, I was thinking about that. I was thinking it's just ripple effect can be negative. Like if you're negative, are you going to ripple? How that's going to work?
Well, Rami, think about it this way. Every conversation, every decision, every action we take has a ripple effect. You determine whether it's a positive or a negative ripple effect.
Oh, wow.
You walk in the door and you look pissed off and you look angry or frustrated. You got that gray cloud over your head. Well, guess what? You just infected everybody in your office that way, because you're there. You may not have intended it, but that's exactly how it happens. What I see often is you get people out there that are walking around. They look like the curmudgeon, right? Gray cloud following them. When you're that person, the world tends to throw more of those people in your path. When you're open, you look like you're easy to engage with. You're someone that has, makes eye contact. You're easy to connect with. The world tends to throw more people that way. But you think about it, that's just our interactions with people. But how we cut somebody off in traffic, not picking up that piece of trash, not doing the right thing for our neighborhood when we need to, or, these various things that happen throughout our day where we could turn a blind eye, pretend to turn a blind eye, or, we could say somebody else will take care of it, or somebody else will fix it, or somebody else will deal with it. It's somebody else's problem, or we could step up and do it. Those things, I think, have a cumulative effect in our lives. When you do those things when nobody else is watching and you're not getting any credit for it, and nobody's going to put your face on on the billboard to say, "Look, what a great guy you are for doing this." You do it because it's the right thing to do, and that's really the decision point. Everything else has the potential to have a negative impact. When you don't do those things, when you turn that blind eye, or you don't step up to help someone you can help, just because you don't think you have the time, or really, you're, oh my gosh, that's just another thing to put on my list, right? The reality is that something else is going to suffer because you're not stepping up to help. I think, whatever you believe in religiously or spiritually, I think we're all put on the earth to be in service of other people. And I think in everything we do, we have the ability to make it a positive or a negative experience. Conversations, the compliments or backhanded compliments, all of these have the yin and the yang, the good and the bad. And you have to be really forward thinking to get up every single day and say, hey, I want to make a difference. I want to make a positive difference. Other people get up and just be like, I don't know how the day is going to go. It's just going to unfold. More likely or not, they're probably impacting the world in a negative way more so.
This is why the corporate or businesses, they're basically hiring you to go in there and kind of change their way. Now I'm getting it that, I knew what you do, but now I'm understanding. When I connected dots, I said, oh, he actually goes to corporate, train these people, guide them how you create positive ripples inside the organization. Is that what you really do?
Yeah, actually, almost every problem starts with a people problem, right? Do we have the right people? Do we have the right people with the right vision and goal and understanding of the mission? Do we have the right people that care about one another and care about our customers and, the organization as a whole? Do we care about, the brand and representing it the best we can, both while on the clock and off the clock? I get asked to come in and do talks or do individual coaching with people that, have the potential to be super successful, but are struggling in some capacity. Maybe it's a team that's underperforming, maybe not doing everything that they can. Maybe the business has slipped, sales have dropped. Almost everything comes down to how are we treating one another and how are we treating our customers and our prospects? How are we interacting with the competitors out there? How are we engaging in creating a culture of connection and engagement so that people understand this is the rules of the game? This is the minimum by which I expect everybody to participate and play in. If you think about it, and anybody who might hear this, when was the last time somebody took you by the hand and said, come on, kid, let me show you how to build relationships, both with the kids in the sandbox or with our prospects and clients or people who might just be casually interested in what you do professionally? Yeah, nobody does that.
Yep, you're right.
And it's a huge miss. And what I get told this often, I just did a talk on this, that, people kind of accuse my stuff as being, well, hey, Steve, this is common sense. Yeah, because it's soft skills, right? We focus on the hard skills. That's what we want to focus on. Common sense, my common sense is not your common sense, and it's not anybody else in this room's common sense, right? It's individualized. And so what I think is right and wrong sometimes may not be actually the same way you look at it. And if you and I haven't taken the time to get to know each other and we're working together and depend on one another for success, and we have different azimuths about what success looks like or what the positive outcome is, and we haven't talked about it, well, we're probably going to end up on, different playing fields, right? Which means that we're not working towards the same common goal. And I can't stand the word soft skills, teaching hard skills, the technical, the tactical, those things are fine. Everybody walks in with a set of skills. How do you get along with the other kids in the sandbox? How do you get along with somebody who says, hey, what do you guys do? Why would I want to invest my money with you? Why would I want to be an investor? Or why would I want to spend money as a client or a customer? If your people can't answer that, then you have a relationship problem. You know, they don't understand how to connect and engage with people. And when I hear the word soft skills, it really irritates me because soft implies it's simple and easy. And there's nothing simple and easy about connecting with another human being. It's an art. It's a skill. It's one that can be learned. It's one that can be perfected, but it never stops. It's an ongoing, consistent training. And the more that corporations invest in their people, we hear employee engagement all the time. The big kumbaya once a month, once a quarter, once a year employee meetings. And, you know, leadership thinks they're doing a great job because they get up and they're talking heads at the front of the room or on stage, and they send everybody out to, you know, go enjoy barbecue or, you know, a group activity, and then expect everybody to show up on Monday and get along. And the reality is it doesn't work that way. That's a short-term, you know, panacea to a bigger problem. If you're not investing in how to make sure that your people are connecting, engaging, and building those relationships with one another, as well as anybody that impacts your success as an organization, you're missing the boat.
And basically, you're talking about the core.
Yep.
The core that I think, as you saying, most of the leaders right now, they are missing it.
Correct.
And most of the organization, they're going down because it comes from the people. How you nurture them, how you connect them, how you feel their pain and suffering and coach them. This is so powerful because it seems easy, but it's not.
No. Well, and you see leadership, no offense to any leader out there, but you can't delegate this away. You know, if you're the CEO, you're the COO, you're the top C-suite of an organization, you should be the best cheerleader. You should be the poster child for how connection happens. So when I have a leader out there who's like, hey, well, people aren't my jam. That's just not my thing. I'm introverted. I'm shy. It's like, well, so am I. But, you know, that is not a crutch you can depend on and be successful. The bottom line is you have to figure out how to take what you perceive as a weakness and turn it into a strength. How do you grow that? And what I find is with a lot of leadership, you know, they abdicate that to HR, or they abdicate that to somebody on the executive team, but that person probably hasn't received this level of training, this kind of approach. And I'll give you an example, you know, for someone that might be out there. If you think about as an organization who your top 20 customers are right now, ask yourself if those customers are going to step out of their box to evangelize what you do without any prompting by you. Like they're at a party this weekend, or they're hanging out with somebody who says, I need X, Y, and Z, and your company provides that. Did they say, I've got a guy or I've got a gal, I've got somebody you need right now to talk to? If you don't have those people constantly giving you an influx of referrals and opportunities, then you have not built the relationships with your customers. And you haven't done that because at the end of the day, those relationships aren't happening internally, most likely, because your people don't know how to do it inside the corporate wall. How would you ever expect them to do it outside the corporate wall?
Basically, what you're telling me, what you plant is what you're going to get.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
And that takes time, like
it
planting
does.
the tree.
It's exactly right. You plant a lot of seeds. Some germinate and actually, you know, bud. Others don't, and that's okay. But you don't give up because a few didn't work out. You keep focused on the ones that did, and keep looking for seeds to plant in everybody that you come across.
You know, humans are very complex. As we talk about the complexity of, you know, this just being a human being and how we're going to connect with people is really an art.
It is.
Like, if I think about it, and every day, especially I'm sure after this talk, I want to think about it more because people are so important. That's what you wrote this book, the ripple effect.
Yep.
This ripple effect, you can explain it better than me, but this is all about how you create ripples through connection. Is that right?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, how you make a positive difference out there in the world, and obviously a big part of that is in the people that you meet in the world. You know, my definition of the ripple is pretty simple. It's any action, big or small, that makes an impact on another person, right? And picking up that piece of trash doesn't immediately impact you, doesn't impact, you know, anybody at our corporate office, or does it? Seeing the CEO of a company pick up a piece of trash and throw it away without yelling at the maintenance guy that, hey, the parking lot looks like crap and you need to get, you know, do your job better.
Wow.
That right there is a very simple action, but you don't know who's watching, who's paying attention, right? You see, oh gosh, I didn't know my boss even took the time to do that, right? You know, wow, well, now I should be doing that. There's this great commercial, and I don't remember the insurance company, but a few years ago, it was really trying to sell the idea, even though they didn't call it rippling. It's exactly what it was, is you saw one person viewing another person doing a positive action for someone else or out there in the world. And then that person rippled on to the next person, that rippled on to the next person. Imagine if you just set a goal, anybody that hears this podcast, to set an intention every single day to make a difference, a positive difference, one difference per day, what that would have in terms of a cumulative effect on your year. And the way that I look at it is when you actually have an opportunity to create these positive ripples, when you lay your head on the pillow at the end of the day and you go through your day and say, hey, did I make an impact? It's the most rewarding thing you will ever experience.
Amazing feeling.
It comes back. But, like I always say, those ripples that you create, you cast that stone, you create that splash. You have no idea how deep and how impactful that ripple is going to be. But those ripples ripple out. But guess what? They always ripple back to you.
It doesn't matter how heavy is the rock.
Correct. Yeah. But the ripples that come back, they come back to us in ways that we don't often understand. One of my ventures that I'm involved in right now was because I paid attention during a meeting and helped guide a guy that at the time was having a struggle with some ongoing negotiations. We'll just say it that way. And I said, here's the 3 things that you missed, and here's 2 things that you can use to recover those 3 things. And they all had something to do with how those 2 individuals connected as people. Not the business agenda, not who was getting, dividing up the empire, or who's going to get the larger piece of the pie. It really came down to how you're going to lay the groundwork to build the relationship. And I said, here's how you do it. And here's the ripple you need to create immediately after this meeting, which, by the way, did not go well. And I said, it's recoverable. He said, you're out of your freaking mind. Well, I have a tendency to disagree with you, but what do you have to lose? Let's test it. Yeah. Tested it. Next thing you know, they're back at the conference table a week later having a conversation. And where that rippled into is a multi-million-dollar business that those 2 aren't involved in. And I actually got the benefit of it because I get an opportunity to run that company today as a separate venture from Ripple. But, that would have died on the vine and everybody would have lost the opportunity because we have this tendency to not look beyond that immediate circumstance. And we always approach everything from our own personal self-interest. And we have that what's in it for me mindset instead of what's in it for them. Why is he being angry? Why is he being difficult during this conversation? What's he hoping to accomplish? It's not that he expected to invite us into his office to piss you off. There was another agenda, but somehow it got off track, and here's how. And my skill set is actually watching people, paying attention and not saying a word, but I'm a really good observer of human behavior. And then seeing how people may not be seeing all the cards that are on the table or even some that are underneath the table. And then how do you get that to get back into a circumstance where we can make a mutually beneficial interaction? And that happens whether it's in work, whether
everywhere.
It's recovering a bad relationship, whether it's, trying to solve a problem for someone, or whether it's just showing up and just trying to contribute out there in the world. It's planting those seeds.
We're all going to start, I want to talk to you all day long, but I know you have another engagements going on right after this. But we all want to create that ripple, that connection. And what you have created it is the 8-minute ripple. And I'm going to tell you, folks, when you're watching or listening, Steve Harper has got an 8-minute ripple that I, once a month, I, kind of join and tune in. Is amazing. That shows you how to basically connect with other people you don't know in different ways. Like, is a true connection, human to human. And I really highly suggest you should sign up for it. I can invite you as a guest.
Yeah.
You can come and join it. But can you tell the listeners and the viewers that why did you build that 8-minute ripple and where is it going?
Well, a lot of people looked at this book as a networking book, and I honestly cannot stand professional networking.
Yeah, it is not actually. It's an art of connection.
Yeah. So we created this 8-minute ripple to give people a different perspective on the power of connecting, right? So at the end of the day, it's networking for non-networking people. And everybody goes to a professional networking event and they feel like they got to have that elevator pitch and they got to show up and have this, this approach, this pomp and circumstance. And I never excelled at that. What I excel at is asking questions, getting to know,
I love that.
like we did in our first ever meeting and have every meeting since. And so we created this event for 2 complete strangers to come together And I provide the questions, Ripple connection questions that are fun to ask, fun to answer. And they're really designed to drive understanding who the other person is, hearing the story, hearing, not just hearing what the answer to the question is, but actually really feeling that answer. And we had a guy at this last one that you went to that has since reached out to me, said that was probably the greatest thing he's ever attended. And it was just a snippet, right? It was a small little window that we do these on, but he was like, I don't think I've ever authentically connected with another human being at the level I did. And I'm like, that's the power, right? So these events, we're hosting them once a month because they're a great opportunity for people to look at how to connect differently. And I think we constantly need that reminder. And we also need the playground to practice. And so we provide that with people. So like you said, if you go to 8minuteripple.com or go to my website, ripplecentral.com, and go /subscribe, you'll actually get on our list and see all the events that we're doing. We've got some great stuff coming for some new communities that we're launching June 1st, 2023 that are you're not going to want to miss. A lot of stuff that you can do for free. How to make Ripple part of your ongoing everyday nomenclature and part of your process, But the 8-Minute Ripple is a fun, engaging activity that will have you not only meeting some really great people, but you'll actually learn some things about yourself along the way.
Are you planning to do it actually in the live like we used to do it before?
Yeah, absolutely. We need to. In fact, maybe we do that. Maybe we do this space, right?
I would host it, man.
Yeah, absolutely. We just need to get it scheduled. Yeah, because face-to-face, we do these online monthly, and there is a little bit that gets lost because it's virtual, right? But at the end of the day, all in the attitude, right? We have had people that have come that have made some significant connections, and they've never met that person because they're clear across the globe, right? They're participating virtually. But yeah, there is no substitute for face-to-face conversations as we're.
I love that. But definitely, folks, if you're watching or listening, go and sign up. You're gonna learn. I learn a lot, and I met so many great people because you connect with them heart to heart with the question that Steve provides. And it's different. It's not like, this is my business card, this is what I do. It's totally different things. And I think that's the great practice and training for the people. Absolutely. That they want to go out there and start networking with the others.
Absolutely.
Is a great platform. But
and I have to say, just before we wrap up, is that you, my friend, are what I designate and call a true Rippler, right? You are a super
That's
Rippler.
what I got the coin.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, you've got our Ripple Challenge.
The coin is going to be with me forever, man.
Yeah. It's just a reminder to have in your pocket every day to make that difference. But, you're doing it through this show. You do it through your work. But you do it because you show up as the person that you are. And at your heart of hearts, you are probably one of the most sincere, authentic guys I know. And I'm so grateful to know you and so appreciative of the opportunity to be here today.
Thank you so much. The same to you, my buddy. You're not only a great friend, you're a mentor for me forever. The day I met you and the day I die. And I still have your nice word in the frame in my office. And true friendship is something else.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like that.
Well, let's just keep rippling on. How about that?
Rippling on. Ripple on, folks. And make sure you go get the book. And if you want the book, I give it to you. Just send me an email or put something in the comment. And if you like this, just go share it for Ripple, 8-Minute Ripple, ripplecentral.com. And I promise you, you're going to learn a lot. This is not advertising. This is something that each individual should learn and do, the art of connecting with people. People are everything. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you.